Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Oscar's Cozy Corner, and welcome back to another Disney Dreamlight Valley decorating long play video. Today, we're up in the plaza. As you can see behind me, I have torn down my Cherry Blossom Plaza, which you can also watch on my channel. But today, we're going to be working with a London kind of town core inspired plaza based on what's come to the premium shop. During this update, there's been a bunch of items that I absolutely love with this rotation. So what we're going to do, we're going to put some of those to work today. We're going to start with a nice blank canvas up in the plaza, and we're just going to build along together and see what we can come up with. So let's just jump straight in. Let's jump over to the plaza and let's get going. So as usual, when I record these long plays, I have cleared out the biome or the space that I'm going to be working in, which today is the plaza. I've also changed everything back to the original default state, so I've not got any skins on the well or the castle itself. And up here in the sunlit, I've created myself a little mood board. Actually, this is probably slightly more than a mood board. There's a lot of items down here today, but I went through the entire item list and took a look at what I think could fit in this possible build. I know that I want to use Big Ben, otherwise known as the London Clock Tower, in some sort of part of this build. I don't know whether it should be in the center, but there's a lot of items here that I think could work. The brick wall kit, for example, I just think is a fantastic addition to the game. So I'm hoping that I can use that alongside some of the tulips, maybe some of the topiaries, but there's a lot to work with for sure. But I think the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at what buildings we can use. Now, of course, I've popped down most of the town core buildings, or at least functional buildings. So I've got Scrooge's, we've got the new Grand Exhibition from Olaf, and then also I've got Daisy's and Remy's. But I would say that Remy's and Scrooge's tend to be the two that are used most in these town buildings because they are functional as well. But I do think that they are the least cohesive, whereas now we've got Olaf's exhibition building and they've used exactly the same style and exactly the same texture as Scrooge's. So I think I'm actually going to end up using those two only. Now, I don't know the exact placement of these just yet. I know that I typically kind of like lean on a crutch of putting them in these two little inlets, which, to be fair, always looks good. So I'm just going to place them down in that area for now. I may very well move them. It might end up being the case that we have them kind of like here and here, which I also don't mind because there's only two of them. It means it doesn't feel too claustrophobic. However, I do want this center section right here to be some sort of centerpiece. Or the other option, because I usually do that when I do these builds, the other option was to have a centerpiece this side, and then not as much in the middle. So I'm just going to place these down just like this for now. And we'll get to those. However, if I come back over here, you can see that I do have a bunch of elements that I would consider London-based, or at least town-esque based. Maybe some of them not so much. I've got the Headless Horseman. However, you do see, although not headless, you do see some horsemen like this on statue plinths in the UK. And I've actually just noticed that it looks as though it doesn't. I thought this horse topiary was actually based on the Headless Horseman horse, but it doesn't appear to be the case. They have slightly different pose. So I think I'm going to grab the London Clock Tower and I'm just going to place it there and there. And I think what could be helpful if I'm trying to do a symmetrical build, which if you've been here for a while, you know that I absolutely love to do, I'm going to grab some path, just anything for now, and I'm going to place it on each edge. I'm going to start working out where the centers are. So I'm going to place one of these on each side. And then we're going to take a look and see, perhaps with some rugs. I always love using the giant playing cards to kind of measure things out. So if I'm doing the center of this area, that's as far as that can go. So let's do one on each side. And then essentially I just work my way to the middle. And there you can see it's given me the visual middle of this area. So that one actually goes over 2, which is fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do that because we'll probably have at least a 2 width path. And then I'm just going to bring that over the other side like this, so I know where the clock tower can sit. And many of you will probably not want to do measuring of biomes in this way, but just for me personally, I like doing it. I like knowing where the center is. I like having things nice and aligned. It's just a personal thing. So what I'm going to do to find the other center, I'm going to bring this across probably to the first place it can go on the inside of this brickwork up here. Or this rock work, I should say. So I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to bring this in, and then it looks as though... I think that's a little bit too far out, so I'm just going to use this one instead. We're going to place it there, and I'm going to bring that all the way down. And then that can give me a center point for this actual structure. But what I'm going to do just to make sure is I'm going to bring the playing cards over. I'm going to say that the center of the playing card, of course, is the middle of the path, which ends up being 2 again. So let's do that, and then let's do that. And hopefully, if we've played our cards right, but on the other side, we'll have something similar. Let me just double check that that's where they were. They were touching the edge, so we've got one there, and then... Okay, we're ever so slightly out on that, just by 1 tile. But that's enough. I'm fine with doing that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this path again, and we're just going to pop that in the middle. Like that. And then I'm just going to do exactly the same thing on this other side. That means I can get rid of those cards. I can make sure that the clock tower is placed down on that center, which is, of course, there. And then I can do the same thing over on this side. There we go. So I've got 2 nice aligned clock towers now, which is the main thing. What I am going to do is I'm actually going to keep these paths. So I'm going to delete this one. I'm going to delete this one. And then this one. Actually, I'm going to keep the outer edge ones, just so I know where the edges of the biome are, because what I quite like to do is I quite like to run fences or topiaries down these edges sometimes to create little runs. So instead of having the decor come all the way up to the edge of the biome, I like to make sure that there's space for me to run, i.e. straight from the peaceful meadow up to the forest. But I'm going to connect these up. And then I'm just going to bring this one in line with that. And then we're going to take this one up to the plaza. Just like that. And I think that that is a great basis to start with. Now that those are in place, one thing that I always like to try and think of relatively early on is if I want any water anywhere. And I do want water in this build, but I just don't know where yet. So it's not really very helpful from myself to myself, because I would like some sort of, I don't know, some sort of water feature or some sort of water element in this build. Not to represent the River Thames or anything like that, but I do think that it could add a little bit of visual interest to the build. But I'm just not sure where to go about it. So I was toying with possibly having the water around about here. Or maybe we even... Well, see, I kind of thought maybe about there. If I bring those tiles across. And it wouldn't have to be too much. But also just enough to be a little bit more interesting. And I thought if I had it here, I could still have that square be the kind of square that I'm hoping it will turn out to be. But let me place these down. And we'll see how close we can get. So it seems as though we can get pretty close to that. Just going to repeat the same thing on this side, just like this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Maybe that's what we do, something along those lines. Or maybe we even take one of them out. And we move it to kind of like the center line by here. Something like that. Let me grab these ones. I'll do the same thing. Pop it just about there. I do wish that I had the ability to duplicate in group mode, but that's okay. We persevere without it. For now, one day, I'm sure that it'll come. I'm just going to follow this as if it were some sort of canal or something all the way down to the bottom. And I'm just going to do exactly the same thing on this side. Because at least that fits. So we could have the water in some capacity just like that. It may feel a little bit close, but that's okay. What I'm going to do, just because it's distracting me, I'm going to change this to the brick road for now. I may not settle with the brick road and we may switch to something else. I don't think I'm going to switch to anything like the main street path because I feel like that's too warm toned for what I'm after, especially if this is kind of like a London-esque build. But once we get this water fleshed out with some borders and things like that, I think it'll all come together very nicely. But I am just trying to get the structural elements down. So if I jump back on over to here, something else I do want to include for sure are these kind of train station buildings. Now I know that these are enormous, and I don't know the best place for these either. Half of me wanted to put them kind of like here and have the buildings tucked away behind them, but I think that's like, I don't know, I think that's a little bit too much, but I do quite like how it looks when we have one of the train station entrances sort of right at the front by there. The other thing that I hadn't really considered as of yet is where to put any train tracks if we do actually use a train track. It might be that we use them later for just embellishments or things like that, because I don't see this as a place for a train. I don't think that's what it was intended for. This is definitely a walkway, so I think that the tracks were just given to us as a bonus. However, in this build, I'm not quite sure where the best place for them would be. Let me just try a few different setups over here. Let's try maybe something diagonal just to see how it looks. Of course, it's not going to look very good, but I mean, it doesn't look too bad. It's definitely not the end of the world for sure if I placed it down there. Just a little bit claustrophobic, I would say, in that case, but let me move Scrooge's for now and let me see what it looks like to have this actually at the back. And that doesn't look too bad either on its own back there, but it feels a little bit far away from the actual London clock tower. Let me bring that over so I can just see where the actual entrance would live. and it would be round about here, which I actually think looks quite good. And in some ways, what they do in London is they use, and I hadn't considered this, is they use facades sometimes. So you'll have the brickwork or the frontage of one building, but behind it is actually a completely different building, and it might be a little bit too much. I also don't know if the sides of these these plaza exits would work if that's the case. But what has been done in the past in London, and I actually saw it while I was in New York, is that the front of the building will be a different facade to the back. So in some ways, there could be something in actually combining the two and putting a frontage on these buildings, but still having the functional building behind it. I don't know how I would go about hiding the rest of it, or even if I would. It could be that we pop, I don't know, for example, maybe a tree in the gap where it looks as though it disconnects, but actually it should be connected. I'm not sure. I'll be honest, I'm kind of liking, in some strange way, I'm kind of liking having these as facades for these buildings. So I wonder if we could even get away with it having it diagonal in some possibility. If I were to go the full 45 with this. Also, wouldn't it be great to have this texture as a path? This pebble texture on top of Scrooge's store. Let me move that back into the corner. I'm going to come out by like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, let me do that. I just want to make sure I leave a little bit of space behind there if I wanted to get in. It doesn't seem as if that is even too... It doesn't seem as if that is a huge amount more of the gap, but I don't like it at that full angle. So if I were to do it, I would have to bring it across another one. Or another one rotation, I should say. Let me move that just about here. And let me see how this one looks. Because this one feels as though it's slightly further away, but actually I don't think it is. I do kind of like that. I mean, it does beg the question of why use those buildings at all if I'm going to hide them. However, I kind of like it. So you know what? This is my channel and this is my video. So I'm going to give it a try. I am actually going to be a little bit pedantic about this again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see where I've put the corner of that building. So you can see that the corner matches up with the corner of the path. If I bring that all the way over here, just like that, and then I bring this across, what should happen is I need to have this in a place where it should match up. And if I take that away, we can see that it touches the edge and that one touches the edge. So that works out nicely. I can get rid of that and I can get rid of that. And I should be able to bring this in front. Now you might not want to cover these buildings up. I feel a little bit shady to Gameloft because they did a wonderful job with these buildings. And they did. You know, I think they did a fantastic job. But for now, I feel like this is very in keeping with the sort of thing you see in London. The little dome on top, I actually think still works fine. And I actually think that that is a lot of fun. Taking a look again at some of these elements, the one that I was again toying with including was this parks entry because I know it is from the Disney parks. The only thing stopping me is the fact that it is quite red, obviously. So it is quite the red structure. It does unfortunately have a much richer tone and richer color than everything else. If it was this brownie color, or if willing we were able to recolor items, I feel like I could make this the same color and this build would just be magnificent. However, at the moment, I'm not sure if there is a place for this, despite it being one of my favorite items in the game. I'm just not sure. Plus, I don't actually think it really fits with the setup we've currently got, because actually we've done this in a way that these paths lead directly to this entrance, which I just love even more. But you'll see I still have a couple of little bugs in the game, so some of the water is actually here because you can't place anything on that location, so water is still a little bit bugged. That's why there's some tiles missing, but please don't worry about that, it will sort itself out. I'm just going to quickly move some of these plants out of the way to make sure that we're not getting too many in our build zone, and then we can continue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off here just a second. Let's see what else we've got. We do actually have ticket booth, of course, for the train station. So I was thinking of having it kind of like against the plaza like that in some ways, because unfortunately it can't go against the building, even though that's how it was advertised. But I was thinking maybe it could go kind of like on each edge like this, butting up against the plaza. I don't know about that, actually. I don't know if I love that. I do think I should probably buy some more of these from Scrooge's because I've run out already just by using 2 of them. But I did just want to basically just remind myself that I do have these as well, because I'm not sure if you can place them back to back at all. Let me just check that out real quick. You can get them relatively close if they are flat on, so you can have like a double-sided ticket booth if that's kind of what you're after. I mean, that could be a possibility of having that there instead on each side of the plaza. I'm going to leave maybe that for now. It's just good to know that that's what we have. I say I'm going to leave it for now and then I continue to play around with it, but that's okay. Yeah, maybe it does need to be just diagonal like that. On the edge of the plaza, perhaps. Something like that. Maybe back in line. We do a rotation on that and we bring it to there. Yeah, to about there. We could do something like that. But then we've also got... What have we got up here? I don't want it to feel too modern. I definitely want it to feel back in time in some ways. But we do also have these extra awnings from the railway kit. Now, because we've got a 45, the closest you can get is like that. However, I think we could use them on the edges, perhaps. Something along these lines. Something along those lines. Looking at this now, just looking at it from this point of view, I kind of feel like the clock tower needs to come across. I don't know, I brought it across 5, but if I bring it across 6, I think that might be better. I know, after all the measuring we did. But there we go, I can get that in just like that. And then let me bring that out the other side. I think that feels a little bit better, alignment-wise. I might have to tweak it later on if we do need to actually make it perfectly symmetrical. That was 6. I'm just going to go ahead and delete these extra edge pieces. And then I can go ahead and bring the center one out. That side. And that side. And I think visually that looks a little bit stronger. Just like that. And then we could even have this coming over the edge. Maybe around about there. I'll do the same thing on this side. Actually, I think that could even come back to about there. Okay, I think that's a good structure and a good start. A nice little basis for us to work from. I was just seeing, I just had an idea to see if that actually fits in this space. But look at that. I think I'm 1 or 2 tiles. I think I'm 1 tile too short. But what would have been cool is if it could have fit somehow like against the other side of that. Just like that. But it wasn't meant to be, and that's okay. And I need to let myself say, Oscar, this actually does look good. So don't stress. Don't stress. But let's move back up to here. I'm thinking of maybe starting to get some of the other structural elements in. I don't think that I'm going to be able to fit a greenhouse in with the type of build that I'm thinking, but let me bring down some of these elements. So let me bring down some of these walls and this corner and these gates. I know I have them placed just up at the top, but actually moving them down is probably going to be a little bit easier. So I was for sure thinking that we could have this enclosed almost in an English garden type setup with the paths running through it. I just don't know where to use the brick or where to use this possible wrought iron one that we got. Now, this kit really needs improving because there's no way that these pieces should be so small. However, we do work with what we've got. And of course, I've got these topiaries as well up at the top. But part of me wants to do the brickwork. Let me show you, for example, running down the sides like this. But then I wonder if you lose the view of the water like that. So the other part of me was thinking to use these because they are much smaller. And you can just kind of like build them up along the edge and it feels a little bit more regal and a little bit more elegant. But then I'm like, I really want to use these brick structures. I just don't know. I just don't know where. But whatever happens, I do need to buy some more of these. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with Scroogey right now. And I think looking at this, maybe we have them running down the front. Or it might be that I need to put these in towards the end. Because maybe I'm doing it in the wrong order. Because I know for sure, I always forget some of the bigger elements. And I know that I definitely want these squares involved in some capacity on both sides. Obviously, I'm hitting that awning by there. But if I placed it somewhere like that, I think that could work. So maybe one that side, one on that side. We could do something like this because we are 1 tile off. Let me do that. And let me bring this one all the way over. Trying to line that up a little bit. Get the rotation on those so the color kind of points towards itself. I mean, I love that. I love those big topiary squares. This little herb we should definitely pick up. Let's go ahead and grab that. And actually, while we're at it, let's double check if there's anything else showing up, and we can pick all that up at the same time. But just adding those like structured squares in, I think makes such a difference. I was kind of wondering whether they should be on all sides. However, I'm not sure. Because we're hitting the water on that side right now. And I don't know whether that's just too much, but also it does feel quite good. But then if I do that approach, I might not be able to fit. I might not be able to fit any brick walls in or any other sort of embellishments, because I've got a lot of stuff up here and I feel like that's taking up all of my plaza space now. But having said that, what else would I really throw in? Because when I drill down into it, it's a lot of small elements. We do have the train tracks, of course, which actually I think could be... I just had maybe an idea come to my brain for the train tracks, but I'm gonna hold off on that just a second. We do have a bunch of pillars and stuff like that. I wonder... Yeah, I think that's too much. So I'm gonna just have those on the outskirts. I mean, in some capacity, you could possibly have them on the inners. Or on the diagonals, I should say. And then you could have like one thing on each side. However, one thing that I have just spotted is my path runs up to the clock tower. And then that's it. You can't actually get around the clock tower. You would run into it. So I think we need to take that into consideration. So let's start fleshing out these paths by another tile. I'm going to do maybe that one there. Because path work at the end of the day is a lot of the impact as well in the game. I kind of like having the path go around the leg of that. So I'm going to do the same on this side. I'm going to have it come out there and there. Then we can take all the way down. You're never going to notice. You might see there's a little bit of a bug underneath there where the border sits almost on top of the topiary substrate, but I'm just going to go ahead and fill all of that in. And I think I might actually be able to go an extra tile as well, so the border is truly on the edge. Apart from that bit where it sticks out, but that's fine. We can do something like that. So let me come all the way down. And where am I going to? There, that one somehow fits without sticking out of the edge, which is strange. I must be maybe one tile too far back with this. I think that I was, so I should actually be able to make that fit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring this one all the way across, and then I should be able to sit that right on the corner. And then we're just going to fill all of this in. The day that we get a fill path tool might be the best day of my life on this game. Let's do that and extend it out. And then I think we need to... I can't delete that one, which is frustrating. Oh, apparently I can. Oh, of course I can. The path can go underneath that. But there is another water piece here that I can't get rid of, and that will unfortunately stay until I restart my game. So I might have to do that just to make sure that I'm not forgetting any pieces. So I'll do that in just a second, and we can just finish that up. And then we can take away this one, this one, this one, and then we will be taking away this one as well. All right, we can see those lingering ones, so I'm just going to get rid of those. I'm going to get rid of those little bits of iron fencing. And I do think having all of the planter brickwork next to each other maybe is too much, so we might alternate them between regular and planted. However, let's make sure that we finish off this path structure. So I'm going to have to run that all the way up here, just like this. We'll just make a spiral shape on the inside until you can't. Move that just across. Okay, there we go. Put that back in place. And then just make sure we are doing the same thing with this one. So bring that all the way around. And just a couple of more rotations. And then we're good with that one as well. Now, I do think that looking at this, we should probably do 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we should also have the path come around like this at the very least. Or part of me is now wondering, do we not have the clock tower on the path whatsoever? Do we just completely clear the path out from underneath it and then have a little wall around it? That's probably going to be difficult to achieve, but where there is a will, there's a way, and we will find both. So we could do something along those lines and have it on its own in the middle like that. I kind of do like that, and if I change it to diagonal, I think it looks even better. The only thing that kind of bugs me is the lack of room. However, I'm wondering if we possibly rotate these in some capacity, kind of like that. And I do actually quite like that. Obviously, I think that the path work is going to need a little bit of love based off of that, but let me tell you what, let me come back to the drawing board a sec. After all that path work we just did, I just feel like I need to take a second just to take a look at what we got going on. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm just going to erase this. Just for a moment. Oops. Okay, that's somehow linked, even though it's not linked anymore. So it looks as though we're going to have to... Okay, there we go. And then... let me see. What if we do the center of that one and the center of that one? And then we could bring each of those out just like that to create the diagonal. If I move that back by 1. Let's see, do you line up? You line up just about there. If If we swap that for diagonal, it does fit, but all we have to do is move this to about there to make it fit in an even nicer way. So I do kind of like that, actually. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to regular and I'm going to extend this path again. So let's do that on both sides. And then I'm going to actually just bring it all the way down an extra tile. Something like that. And then we can change those ones and it makes that nice diamond-esque shape around the edge. So I think that looks fun, and I think it already has a little bit of personality. I'm wondering if the brickwork could kind of go around about here. I can get that to about there. But we could just have it start like that and then maybe reflect on the other side, although I don't think I can fit a full piece in. It might have to be like a half piece, just like that. I don't know. Maybe it does need to be fully in front of it. You know, just like this. If I move that all the way to the edge, how many of those could I fit? Oh, I can get it right up against that, which is quite cool. It's a shame I can't get these underneath it. I know that it doesn't work like that because obviously it's the structure of the gazebo that won't let me put it underneath, but it would have been cool to have the gate kind of inside of that. I don't know if I can fit this gate in under here. Oh, it will let me play around with that and kind of have that one in the middle, which actually I don't hate. Let me remove this path because I don't think I need that. But what should happen is this should be brick path for sure. So I'm just going to do this. And then actually I wonder if I move that there and bring that out like that. And then maybe we could even do that. I know that looks a little bit odd right now, but when it goes diagonal, I think that it looks quite cool. Maybe just me, but that's okay. It does bug me that the diagonal doesn't line up with the edge of the wall. So actually, maybe let me change all of those again real quick, and then let me just change this side. To make it actually... No. Well, that's fine. I actually think it might work better if the brickwork was in line with the front of the post. So in front, just in line with the front of the gazebo post, something along those lines. I think that looks slightly stronger. So if that's the case, I probably shouldn't worry about the point. But actually, I just don't think that the point is needed anyway. So I'm just going to delete those tiles. And we can just have the small walkway through the center. Let me grab... If I can grab this gate. That's as far in as it has to be. So to be honest, I don't know. Let me sit with that one. I'm going to remove that and I'm going to replace it for a single tile. And then if I can, I'm going to try and fit one of the lamps in, which does fit nicely, thank goodness. So I'm going to do the same thing on the end as well. I'm going to take one, and then I'm going to place the lamp on instead, so it feels like a nice structure. And then actually, I'm going to place one of these down either side. And then what I wanted was a lamp in the middle. Just a single lamp in the middle. But I don't think that's going to work. It would have had to be every other, right? So it would have had to be like this. And then another lamp, and then the center one. Which actually I don't hate either. But let me see what it looks like with both. Let me place maybe this and this in. Honestly, I kind of like the lamp setup we've got going on. So I'm just going to duplicate this on the other side. We're going to do that, and then we're going to do a lamp. Although it may be more along this route. Let's just keep that setup going. Yeah, I can't fit the extra one in there, unfortunately, but I don't mind having a small gap there, I'll be honest, because it allows me to run in and out of that area if I need to. I do quite like that setup. The only other thing I'm wondering is I actually think that the brick fencing goes quite nicely with this. So this iron brick fencing. Now I'm wondering if there's any capacity that I could also fit this in. Let me just see how it looks. It might be the case that it looks rubbish. But I do kind of feel like it goes. Just because of the red tone. So I'm going to have a think about whether I could use that anywhere else. Just because it does match so nicely. Let me just see what it looks like behind. I actually think that looks quite cool as well. Having the mixture of the two. Now, the only thing is, you can't kind of get them to line up with the posts in a way that you might want. Although, actually, that turned out okay. Oh, I do kind of like that. I like the effect that the wrought iron has. So like the lines, I think it looks pretty cool. And then I was wondering if on the inside of that, maybe we used any of like the topiaries. I don't know how many or if I can fit any of these in. I can fit one there, one there. So I can fit those in. That does look pretty cool. To me at least, but maybe they're a little bit too high. So it does go together. It definitely like feels like it's been intentionally placed. And I think that's what a lot of good builds include, is layering in this capacity. So you'll see that it's obviously like 3 separate things, but when you put them together like that, it just builds out into a really nice structure, complete thing, for lack of a better term. I'm just going to move that down a sec real quick, because I can actually fit an extra one in there if I move that down, but it would require all of this to move down alongside it, and I don't know if that's then too much, because I don't know how many tiles I just moved that by, but I do really like the idea of that. All right, for now, I'm going to leave it with the peekaboo gap, so you can kind of like look through that very middle section. However, I'm going to need to do the same thing on this other side. So let me go ahead and do that right now. Let's do this one and bring it across to there. Let's grab this one and bring it all the way across to there. And then I kind of placed one down here, and then I just let it absorb itself, and then we can bring in these topiaries just like that. Very much looking good. Don't know whether to include the fence on the inside. Actually, you know what? I am. The topiary can be on both sides of the hedge. Not the topiary. The fence can be on both sides of the topiary. And it can kind of enclose it in that middle bit. I mean, I think that looks really good. So as kind of like an entrance to this area, an entrance to this plaza, I feel like that is really strong, especially because we can add plants to these planters. Is just going to take it to another level. All right, so obviously we've done a lot of work on one side and we've not done quite as much on the other. We are going to have to get to that in just a sec. So I'm going to try and not go too far. Although, to be perfectly honest, I think I've already surpassed that. Mostly because now I have to try and remember what we did on the other side to be able to replicate it on this side, which is why I wish there was a duplicate button on the group feature. If you have enough of everything in your inventory, it would be great to be able to just duplicate it and bring it over. I don't know if these ones are too much or whether they should be the basic ones. Just looking at it again, I don't know if the lights should just be on the ends. I am undecided. I'm going to leave the lights where they are for now. I'm not going to mess around even more. But I did actually delete the path that I was using as my reference point underneath this, which is fine. Everything's fine. So I think what I might do is I'm just going to try and use something for reference. So I'm just going to grab a playing card again. And I'm going to, no, I'm not even going to use a playing card. Let's use something smaller. That's a little bit too small. Actually, no, let me see if I can work that. If I place that right on the corner and I do that, I know that that's where the first one starts and I can base everything off that. So let's bring this over and let's place that there. Let's place that there. And then I know that that is where I need to start my fence line. So let's grab my fence. Let's grab this iron and brick one. And essentially that goes halfway over the post. Ah. Okay, our fence is using a different grid over this side, which is fine. So let's try and work out the best place to put this in that case. Probably, I think probably one out is probably the best. Something like that. Because it lines up with the center of the post there, but basically it needs to line up with the outside of it. It's only going to be half a tile off anyway, which is fine. I'm going to bring that down to there. I'm actually going to delete this path right now. And then I'm going to start bringing in some of the elements. So I'm going to bring this over. Make sure it lines up. And actually on the inside, that's, I believe, 1 tile less, but on the outside, it's the full width that it can go before it breaks up into another post. So let's do that by there. And then let's bring another one of these in. And then I'm going to move, I'm actually going to delete those, and then I'm going to delete these outer sections of path because we know that they need to be made into that diamond shape. Let's do that. Let's bring this over, and I think it's touching the hedge, but all right, that's a little bit close actually, because the hedge, actually, is it? No, I don't think it is. But it does need to come across a little bit. So let me do, I believe this is where the other one starts. And then that came out the full amount. And then we place that middle one in to do the connection like that. So let's do that to the center. And then we can do something like this. And then I believe that should line up. Looks like I'm just 1 out on that, but that might need to come across. Let me double check if that lines up to the center of that. It does. Okay. It does. I can't come across any further with that. I can't come across any further with that. Oh, it's that edge one. Actually, they're in one on both sides. I didn't realize that. So that can come across, that can come across, that can come across, and so can that. Although that's still lining up to the middle, which is strange. It is going to bug me if I can't get that to fix. So let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And have I got 5 or have I got 6 on this one over here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Look, there's my issue. That's where I've gone wrong. Gone out by 1 too many tiles. I know that that's in the correct place. So it must be this one that's come out just a little bit too far. Well, I'm not sure how that happened because I thought that we measured where those buildings were. Ah, we didn't, did we? We didn't. Look, that's where I've gone wrong, friends. I think we did it initially, but we haven't done it since. So let me grab a path. Let me grab this yellow speckled one and let me place it from the front of that. And I know that it comes out 1, 2 to the corner. So on this side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back 1, 2, and then I'm going to take it all the way across, and it lines up. Okay, it was out by 1. Now it lines up. Okay, I wasn't a million miles away. So I can delete those. And then we can take a look at what is going on over on this section. That can go there, and then that can go there. I believe that looks right now. I believe that is correct, which means we can go back to our fencing, grab our iron one, and we're going to have it come. Interesting that I can actually have it match up to the edge on this one. Could I not have it come across any further here? No. Oh, I think I've got that in the wrong place. I've not got it far enough back. So that... Wait, what? let's fill in this one anyway. Let's start with that. Let's fill in this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So I've got a big triangle at the top, a little triangle at the bottom. Friends, what have I done wrong? This is not lining up, and I'm not entirely sure why. Because I can't, oh, I can get those closer. Maybe it's just me. Unless it's the grid of the actual piece. Maybe it has a different grid on one side, a different grid on the other, but those pillars are touching over there, but they're not quite touching here. But you know what? Where does that go then? Does it line up with the end? It lines up with the very tip of that. And I go past it. Interesting. I don't know how that's happened, but you know what? That is absolutely close enough for me on this particular occasion. But what I should probably just double check. I know what I've done. Friends, I know what I've done. I think I'm too high on this side. Because let me see, if I bring a path across, I was about to let it go, but you know what? I'm not going to. If I bring a path across from there, that lines up just like that. If I bring a path across from there, look how much higher it is. Oh dear. So I messed up on this side, which is unsurprising because that's the side that we're trying to match with the other. So let me go ahead and bring this down. How many does it need to come down? So it lines up. It sits just over the edge. So I actually think I was only a tile away. Just like that. Which means that can come down 1. And that can come down 1. And then we are cooking with gas. Let me get rid of that. I can bring this over to there. Then I can fill in that little space and we are happy. Yes, we are happy. So let me pull that one to there and then we can have that here. And this can come across as far as it will go and it should line up lovely. And we've got a match. Fantastic. Let's delete the rest of those paths just like that. Oh, this looks fun. I like this. This is definitely like the vibe that I was going for. All that fun kind of like warm tone brickwork. I know that the castle doesn't really match, but based on what we have, I don't think that the cherry blossom really fits either. So I'm happy to wait it out and see what we get next time. If we get another castle skin, for example, I know that they do like doing those, but let's carry on with this side. Let's actually see where that lines up in the end, because we do have to add these in. Of course, so we've got one here, one here. And then for the rest of it, I'll just do it bit by bit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm just going to double check on this side where this lines up. So it lines up with the front of those brick pillars, just out in front actually. So let's come out with this one to about there. Get rid of those. I think I can increase. Are we increasing that spacing? Okay, the path is on a slightly different grid. So let me see what we've got over here. Yeah, so unfortunately, the path operates on like a slightly larger grid. So as you can see, it would have been all the way out here. But I'm going to have to bring this back to about there. But that's fine. It lasts for 1, 2, 3, 4 tiles, and I think that's what we've got at the moment. 1, 2, 3, 4 tiles. So that's correct. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave that aligned, but I'm going to move all of this back, which I can't do actually with the group mode because of the fence, because you can't move fence with group mode. So I'm just going to delete the fencing. I'm going to grab it all. I'm going to move it the 2 tiles back that it requires, and then we're just going to go ahead and we're going to put that fence back in once again. Apologies for the umpteenth time. Pop that in just like that, and then it's just 1 on either side, so at least that was pretty painless. And then hopefully the left hand side will go relatively smoothly once that's all done. So that actually lines up with the middle of that. That lines up with the middle of that, so I think that's looking good. I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate this over here, and we're going to do... Yeah, okay, that looks fine. We're going to do the same thing with the fencing. So we're going to do, not there, we're going to do it across from that point. Get rid of that one. And then we're going to do a full one across from here, as far as it can go, which is a little smaller because of this rock that jumps out like that. And then I'm going to grab the topiary, and I think it's in by 2. But actually I can start from this instead. So 1, 2, and then 1. Unfortunately, I can only fit the 1 piece in there, but we do have a small single piece that might fit the bill. And it does, thank goodness. Let's do that. Then we can do this other bit of fence. I'll just bring it all the way across. We'll take off that middle bit. We'll bring that all the way across to there. I've just realized that one is out as well. Let me bring that down to there. And do that. So it should line up with the outside of those, but let's put one here. This one is going to cause an issue for me because it stopped slightly sooner, but that's fine. We can work with that. Yeah, it's a case that we just can't fit the end lamp on, which I'm fine with. The only other thing would be to kind of swap the order around, but I don't really want to do that, because it's still not going to be quite right, and it's not going to line up properly. So I'm fine with just leaving the end lamp off for this particular one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring that out back there. And I'm going to bring that out back there. And then we're going to fill in that final gap. Just like that. And we have matching walls on both sides, which is fantastic. So that means that we can now do this little bit of path. So if I'm going to match it up, I believe it's this one. And then it comes down again. And I think it does that 3 times. And I think it comes out like that. I may be 1 tile off, I think, on one side, but that's okay. I'm just going to fill that in. Just like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to go up 1, 2, 3, and we're going to come down, across, down, and across. And I'm just going to change that to diagonal to make sure that it sits where it's meant to sit, and it does, which is great. And then we just lose the center section like this. I think we actually lose another row. think maybe I've not come down. Let me just check. Let me fill that in. I feel like I'm misaligned here. So that's a square. Let's take a look. It does feel off, right? It feels like... almost feels as if that needs to come down by an extra 1 on all sides. Well, on this side at least. But then that now feels off. Maybe that is centered and I'm just missing that. So let me do... that's definitely correct. But if I were to get rid of... oh no. I think that's also correct. It's just a trick of my eye playing on me. So I'm going to place that just there like that. And then if we change that, we've got that lovely diagonal setup. And I can pop that one back in the middle. Doesn't that look elegant? I feel like that looks very elegant. That's definitely the vibe that I'm going for. I know that we have the water still kind of floating in the middle. We will do something like this with that, but I just need a little bit more time. I feel like that's going to be one of the later things that I do, which is all good. I'm happy with letting it flow, for lack of a better term, naturally. I'm also happy leaving... actually, I don't know. Let me get rid of that right there. And then let me get rid of that right there. This is something I should really do at the end, but I don't know whether to just pop a little path. Maybe a different style of path, just running down the edges on the outside. Maybe just the brick road or something like that. You know, just down here. Like that. Maybe even to there. And then where can we go out? We can go out here. And just have that fill in that space. I don't think I can go any further back on that side, but I think I can come out. There we go. Just something like that. I don't know whether that road is the right one. Maybe we could have something like pebbles or cobblestone, I should say, not pebbles. I don't think slate is quite the right option. But I do actually quite like the natural brick, the natural road with the border. Asphalt, not for me personally. Actually, I do kind of like that. I wonder what it would look like if I get rid of this one and I have it go underneath. Ooh, no, I don't like that. I like seeing the green. But actually, I kind of also just like the brick. After all that, I kind of also just like the brick, so that's me getting distracted anyway. Let's continue with what we've got going on in this little bit, and I want to see what else we have. So I didn't actually bring in, apart from this spirit water curtain, I didn't actually double check to see if there was a fountain or anything that we could use. I don't think I want a fountain. We do have this zoo one, which came with Lady and the Tramp. I mean, that's relatively small, so that could be useful, possibly. So actually, let me place that down just as a just in case. But I feel like all the other fountains, I mean, Ratatouille one is really a decent match, even though it's a little bit more French. but everything else feels a little bit too themed. Like marble doesn't seem quite fitting. But then we've got like Mickey ones. We do have a tiered fountain, but again, the color of it is a little bit too dark gray. So I don't think I want, personally, I don't think I want a fountain at the moment, just based on what I'm seeing, which is fine. But we do have some other stuff. We've got some little embellishments up here, some small decorative things. We do also have these, I don't know what they're called. Well, they're not chariots, but the carts or the old style cars. I do have this one as well, which is a haunted mansion one. I think this might be a little bit too much for this build, just because there's not actually a horse with it. However, I do think some of the regal ones, so this is the one from the Ariel, the Little Mermaid bundle, I believe, the Dream bundle, and then this one is from the Lady and the Tramp update. So I actually really like both of those, but honestly, I think the one from the Lady and the Tramp update has a little bit more detail and visual interest to it. Also, I like the slightly purple color of that one. So I didn't know whether to include this in some capacity, just, I don't know, kind of like this, or maybe down the front, or something along those lines, but I would like to include that if I can. So I'm just going to do that over there, and I'm going to do that there as well. Move that out of the way for a second. I do have this partner statue, which I do absolutely adore. Does it feel super London? I'm not sure. Would I still love to include it? Yes. Am I going to include it? I don't know. I do think it does kind of fit. I do think it does kind of work. But I can't decide. I can't decide. For now, though, let's continue fleshing out these areas. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring this... I'm going to bring this here for a sec. I just want to see how it looks. I'm going to delete. Okay. I'm a little bit off on my measurements there. So it's 1, 2, 3 tiles. So 1, 2, 3 tiles, and the fourth one is what I delete. Let me just try that real quick. And then we do like that. I think that should fit. I just want to see where it takes me if I were to use the same structure on both sides. I think it looks good. I think it looks good. I think, could it be a little bit far out? I don't know, because I was toying with having it like in line with the water, just like that. But then the fact that it's so much further away than the other one kind of bugs me. However, could I get it to line up? Possibly. If I came out to what, here? That's the center point of that. And I mean, we could bring in... You can't really see the edge with these anyway, but like we could bring this in to there. Just like that. And then we could always put something in this corner. What? I don't know, but we could put something. I guess we could put an end cap if it would fit. I don't think it will fit just because of where... Oh no, it does fit. So you could put an end cap on that. And then you can't really tell that the water doesn't go to that corner. And actually, you could bring that all the way down and it clips into it. I like that. And then it looks as though that is in line with the water and kind of going over the water. But instead of having the path snake through the middle of it like we did on the other side, I would love it to look like this goes over the top, like some sort of bridge. I'm just not entirely sure as of yet how to make that happen. I'm just going to move that the same as I moved it just then. 1, 2, 1, 2. Actually, that could probably end up going like somewhere down here. However, let's leave it for now. I wonder if I used a small piece of water where I could actually get that to go. It's a shame that they only left a 6 gap between this, because if they left an 8, we could have had the water like right underneath it. I mean, the water can get to that point. I don't know if that really adds much. Well, we can have it like filter, but I'm not going to be able to get the fence thing that we need in at that point. You see? So like I could have one there and one there. Well, I can't even have one there because it doesn't line up. So I think the water going underneath just like that is out. But I can get it relatively close by using those single ones. So I can move that across and then I can fit it right up to the edge. But again, I face the same issue. Can't place these inside against that. So actually that was a fruitless exercise and we should remove those immediately. But we can place them kind of like this. I do need to remember the corner pieces, which are over here, and trying to fit those in as well. They have to go reverse like this because you can't have it against the water just because of the grid, which is a shame. But then we can do something like that all the way down. Whether this matches or not, I'm not entirely sure, but I do think it looks quite nice. What I would like to do somehow, I don't know if I replace these ones. I would also love to have, in some capacity, the wrought iron fence, because I do think that that looks lovely as well. This one is very decorative. But the problem I have with that one is you can't really hide the water so much. It doesn't look as good. I would love to be able to fit this fence properly underneath this rather than just like that. However, we do, I've just realized, need to fit this gate underneath. So if we do something like that, that fence becomes redundant. As does that one. And I don't know whether to just replace it with this like brick one. Kind of like that. And what if we had them meet in the middle? I don't mind that. I think that looks quite good. I can bring that over. And I just realized, I think we're out by 1. Yeah, I'm out. The whole thing, I'm out by 1 tile. That is a disaster. Let's move that across by 1. I don't think this one is going to be able to come across. It's not, which is a shame. But let's see if we can... No, I'm not going to be able to. Oh, I can go there, though, actually, into the... Oh, that looks good. Yeah, I take that back. That actually looks quite good. So that means that all of this bottom section needs to come across by 1, too. Let me try that again. Let me try it One more time. Just across by one. And then I do think that we stick with having... See, look, I've put my brickwork now in the wrong place. Let's see how that looks. And then I should be able to get that in the middle, just like that. Which I think is fine. Although I don't think I need to come that far across. I don't know why I just did that. No, I do know why I did that, because it's off center. So let me revert that. We might be able to fit some flowers in there, possibly. Just as a possibility. A hedge, perhaps? No, a little bit too close for the hedge. That's fine. Or perhaps even a brick wall. Let me see. I don't think... Oh. I can fit the brick wall in. And I can fit two of them. So, do I go with the brick wall? Or do I go with... What happens if I take this one out by 2 and this one out by 2? Can I fit a light in? Oh, I can. Even better. What if I put a light on either side? And then I just have the planter in the middle. Oh, there we go. That looks good. Yeah, why didn't I do that before? Let's go. Right, fence away. Planter, you're in. Plus light. And then maybe we can have these... I thought maybe we could have these finishing posts. It would have been really nice to have those. Don't know why these have why they can't just have a 2x1 grid. Why they have to be on this sort of grid seems so strange to me. But actually, I think it looks okay with the way that it ends. Although it's so dumb because, like, I have to have that one matching up, but I can't have this one matching up just because of the way the grid works. Either that or I just have it end. I can make this work. I can make this work. Let me find a way. Let's pop all of these down like this. The edges are for someone else to worry about, and that someone is not me. But actually, look, I can fit these on the end, so let's do that. Just to make it look neat. I wonder if now I could fit... the ends on, but I still can't. But let me see what little piece I have. Could I do something with the corner? Maybe kind of like that. I don't know whether that looks a little bit janky. Unless I just had it eke out of the side. So it kind of like lines up with the pole instead. Actually, no. You know what? I don't like any of that. I don't like any of that at all. I rebuke it. I take it back. And I'm just going to let the brick work. Ah. bugging me. I still want the flower bed really, but maybe I just have to sacrifice my flower bed for 3 of these. And I think that's fine. It's not that big of a deal. And then plus that takes away the need, because they end basically on the brickwork rather than coming off the side of it. So let me put my big boy pants on. Let me accept the way that this is going, and let's place 3 of these down. 1, 2, 3. And let's just relish in how good it actually looks. I know that these have a gate as well. Oh look, it actually does fit though. Just not quite. No. I don't know whether to do one of these on each side, because I still feel like that kind of looks... Oh, I don't know. It makes me want to move this one out here too. Like that. Although the only thing that will really bug me... Unless I just... Ah, wait. Let me have them on the insides. One there, but not here. Like that. So it's... Oh, okay, there we go. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. Look at this. Doesn't this look so good? I am in love. Do not call me Susan, Egan, or Meg, because I will say that I'm in love. It has started raining, but that's okay. We persevere. Actually, this is more accurate if I'm doing a London, or at least England-inspired build, because it's always raining here. So I do have the majority of this down in a pretty good way now. I am toying with what we do here. I actually never realized that this is off-center. The bench is off-center and you can't align it. How strange. I have never noticed that. I still don't know whether I'm going to use this. My gut is saying maybe, which is neither a yes or a no. But that's okay. Let's just quickly duplicate what we did on that other side. And let's do that over here. So we've got that. I am going to need to remove a couple of these. Let me just get this one out of the way for now. Gaston hanging around being a pain. Because that means I can move this across to there. And then I can just go ahead and bring in these elements in exactly the same way that we did on the other side. That is definitely not right. So let me do that. And I think that looks correct. It just means all of these water tiles have to come across by another 2, actually, by the look of it. And then all of these have to come across just the same to about here. Let's go with that. And then we just need to grab these, pop these down, as we have in the other areas. The only annoying thing about these is that we don't have multiple sizes, which means every single one of these that you place down is one more count towards your furniture limit or your item limit. Come on, Game Loft, give us some more. These were a premium shop item. We should at least have a couple of variations in size, so we're not chewing through our item limit just by wanting to put a small border around one of the ponds. But that looks good. That kind of matches already. Let's make sure we have these in. I need to bring all of this water back by, I think, 1 tile to be able to fit that in. just like that. Do the same on the top. And then we can grab those smaller little bits. We can just place them to create our semi-bridge structure type thing. Now, I don't know whether to do something along the lines of trying to have a different path in here to make it look even more like a bridge. Let me just show you what I was possibly thinking. Like, it doesn't have to be this specific one, but I just thought it adds a little bit of variation. I could be wrong. I might be able to bring it out another tile. Kind of like that. I don't know, what would work for maybe a bridge? See, I do kind of like the Main Street path in that capacity, but I still think it's a little bit too warm. I don't think any of like the ancient stuff fits for me. Doesn't feel quite right. The bronze definitely does not look good. Gold is not the correct answer, but I do actually like how it looks with the gazebo. I think it's a gazebo. And I also don't want it to come out further. So I don't want it to come out like that, because I think that ruins the illusion. But maybe we just try a slightly different color. You know, something like that one. Maybe something. I don't think the asphalt's going to work for me. No. And I don't think... I mean, I don't mind the slate, actually. Looking at it again, I don't mind the slate. Part of me does feel like the cobblestones could work. So it's almost as if the water's going underneath the cobblestones. But then part of me just keeps coming back as well to this brick version. I don't know. I don't know. Let's stick with the natural, maybe. Let's stick with the natural one for now. Let me grab that again. Where did it go? Here it is. And I'm just gonna use that one for the time being. Down here, across, and then up there. Also don't know whether to bring it in again in this section. You know? Where is that? It's just on the outside. But I could have it just on the insides. Kind of like that, maybe. Because those are in a slightly different place, so it's going to come out too far if I do it there. All right, I'm going to just stick with that for now. And I'm just going to do the same thing over here. I may change that. I may tweak it slightly, but I think it's suitable for the time being. Cool. Okay. That looks good. Let me just move one of these up here real quick so I can make sure that we've picked everything up. I've just noticed I do have one at the top, but it's okay. We can use two. Let's make sure that saves. I'm going to grab anything that might be appearing again, like that. And we can push on with this build. We are making great progress. I'm happy with how it's coming together and how it's turning out. I think it looks super, super fun. The only downside of having this aligned to, let's say, this square, because it is aligned to that, so these are equal, so we've got 4 on each side. Where the steps come up, it makes it look like this right-hand side is a lot shorter than this left-hand side, but it's because we've kind of done it to there. So it does need that, but yeah, it's just a little bit of a pain. But let me make sure I've got a bunch of these across the front here too. And I can add, I think the corner ones, I think should fit just on the edges, just like that. That finishes the edge off just by there. Now let me see what else I've got going on up at the top. I do have these greenhouses, which again, I think are too big for the space. I don't think that they fit. So I think we're going to skip out on those today. We do have the spirit water curtain, which I think might be a little bit too much. Like, I don't want it around the clock tower or anything like that. I mean, if we wanted to be silly, we could put it behind the ticket booth, but I don't think that it quite works. However, I'm wondering if the water fountain tile does fit under the water, and it does seem as though that's the case. So you could have kind of like fountains, make your own fountains at least in the middles like that. Let's see where the absolute center is. I think it's there. So you could do like a tile gap on each side. Oops, I've definitely misjudged that. And then one there. So you could have your own fountains, which I think looks quite cool. So actually I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that. Just leaving a 1 tile gap each side. This just adds a little bit of energy, I guess, to the water itself. A bit of movement. That one's slightly off. Let's put that there, there, and there. There we go. So that just gives a little bit of life to those. I think that it could be nice to maybe work out if we can fit a train back here. So I do have one of the Tiana trains, and I was thinking maybe that could go in this space, but I don't want to block too much of the path off. All right, in that case, let me see where I can do the train track. Like, I'm not saying that this is going to be accurate or anything, like, but let me see where this train track could go. If I come off this little area, and then I've got another piece like that. Got a rounded piece. And then I've also got the straight piece, I think, which is just over here. I don't know, I could have it connect to itself, I guess. Like, it's just something on the ground for visuals, I suppose. But that doesn't really let me add in the train anywhere. Because I did think it could be cool to have the train somehow. Unless we had, if I move maybe this, could we fit the train in just somewhere? Oh, that feels tight, doesn't it? I didn't realize how big that train actually was. It is a shame that we don't have a real train in the game. I don't, yeah, that's not working for me in any capacity. However, maybe it's the ticket booth that's in the wrong place. Let me move that just a sec. Because we could possibly put the train in by there. But again, don't you think it just swallows up a lot of the space? And it just takes up too much. It just takes up too much of what you're looking at. Like, I guess you could kind of have it off the edge, so you have to run past it. But even then, it doesn't feel quite right. The only other thing I can think of doing is having it this way. But then it blocks off. Well, you can't even fit it behind that one. The train was always going to be a possible addition. But as of right now, it feels impossible. Maybe. It just feels like it's being plonked, you know, and I don't want to plonk it. I want it to feel intentional. Like, the only other place it could go really is round about there, and that, I don't know, maybe that doesn't feel bad, but it just feels like it blocks the sightline, especially if this is meant to be like a almost a garden area or a formal, like, nicely decorated area in some capacity. So I'm not loving the idea of the train as much as I love the idea of the train. Unless it was just out the back like that. Let me delete those again. Let me bring that down. So that's where it ends up over here, which means it needs to be roughly about there. If I look at that, it's just in front of that. If I look at that, it's just in front of that. So it could go maybe in that area if I move the ticket booth back. All right, I don't hate that. I don't hate that one. I just don't love that it's like the exact same direction as the buildings. But actually, I think I can live with that. I think it's such a hardship. I think that I can live with that. However, I would still like to try and get some track. I don't know, somewhere. Even if it's just little pieces of a track. That's definitely too big. Fit one in. If I move that across by one on both sides, I should be able to move that back as far as I want it. And let me do that. You know, so there's little bits of track that I could place down, because you can't even use the track diagonally, which is a pain. Obviously, you can't really use anything diagonally in this game. I don't know if that would fit in that gap. Let me just see what it looked like. So you could do that, maybe. Although I think it's going to hit the back of the train. Let me grab a straight piece from over here. Or you could have it kind of going off behind the building. I'm obviously hitting that right there, but you could have the train track just disappearing off slightly around the back. I'm not sure if this is going to hinder my ability to put like foliage down, because you know me, I love to decorate with foliage. That is one of my primary functions. Let me move that back. Let me grab the opposite piece to that, which I believe is this one. Like that. And then I think this went like, I don't even know. Round about there. Maybe it's the case that this is just a decorative train in the game too. Ah, I'm hitting a bug. Not so much a bug, but I'm hitting a rock. So maybe I just reduce that back down and we just have that. Something akin to this. And then I could just have something like that. Because it'll still let the light glow from it, which is the main thing. And it's just kind of like sat in the background of the ticket. So you can see that there's a train that exists. Whether you can get on it or not, that is nothing to do with me. All right, let's try that. The sun has come back out in the game, which is fantastic. We do love when it's sunny. Just makes everything pop a little bit more. So I'm just looking now at what else I've got going on. We've got the main structure and the main pieces down, I would say. So let's hop on over to this area and see what else we've got lurking around. I do have this lovely Tiana gazebo, which I do really love, but I don't think that this is quite right for this build as much as I do adore it. And it is quite big still. I would love to be able to fit another one of these in. However, that is completely off the table due to the size of that as well. We're mostly down to foliage and trees at this point, which I think is about accurate. I think I can make this look really good with all of those foliage elements coming in too. But I do think that this middle area just needs a little bit more attention. I'm just double checking with what. It could be that we're done with the big stuff and now it's like benches and foliage. Obviously lighting. I don't want to forget lighting. I think that might be where we're at. I do think it could be cool to have maybe the telephone pole in here somewhere. Like that. Maybe just as close as I can get it. Just to really just enhance that city feeling. And honestly, it kind of feels like... I don't think they would have been electric back then, the time period that's kind of in my head for this. But, you know, overhead electric wires and stuff like that for the train station. That's the vibe that is giving, at least for me. I don't know whether to have one or to have two, or whether to have four. Actually, I think I prefer two. I think I prefer two. I don't think I want a dog pound truck or anything like that. I mean, it does kind of match, but like, I like the elegant carriage that we have instead. So let me just have another quick look at my lovely mood board, which took me quite a while to put together. I will say that. No, I think that we're pretty much there. Let me just flesh out this middle bit. I want to add an extra bit of path on both sides, just like that. Let's go ahead and actually let's do something like that. I'm just trying to make it look a little bit more interesting when I change it to diagonal mode. And I like playing around with path like that. You know, I just think that already looks better. But I wonder if we do a connection out the back like that. Maybe we do something like this. Let me see how that looks. Yeah, that looks kind of fun too. So I can match that up on this side like that. And then we could do... Yeah, that's fun. And then maybe we could bring this side out. And then when you change it all, it just has a cool look to it. Just something a bit more interesting for the space. I like that. I don't know what to do now, but I like it. All right, let me maybe bring in... See, I kind of want more brickwork around here, and I just don't know where it would go. I mean, it kind of like fits in there a little bit, I guess. We could kind of try and maybe fit it in these gaps. I'm not sure. I just love these brick walls so much that I really just want to use them everywhere, even when it might not be appropriate to use them. Guess maybe we could do... No, that doesn't look good. I wonder if I have it coming off that. No. The answer's no. I tell you what, let me fill in. Let me fill these in. I know I just did them. I'm going to fill those in and we're going to just see if there's any wall structures or anything like that that we can create in this middle area. Because I really do love the way that they have this curved version as well. Because we could make something like... I don't know, could we make something like this in the middle with like a tree in it or something along those lines? That doesn't feel like a big enough gap for a tree, right? I feel like the trees have a much bigger footprint than that, but let me just see. Yeah, if that feels a little bit tight. What if I did something like that? Actually, at that point, I think we could just use the 4. And then I was wondering if maybe, I don't know, something could go in that spot, but look at the size of these footprints. I think some of them are too big. All right, that's way too, that's way too much. Okay. But something smaller, maybe like that. Perchance, perhaps, maybe. I think it adds a bit of shade, adds a bit of visual interest. We could do it so that instead of those big rounded ones like that, we could have the small corners, and we could place the planters in amongst those so it had planting as well. And then maybe we could figure out a way to fit some benches in or around this. You know, something like that. And then we could have plants in that too. And then maybe we could have a bench on each side. Or at least on the front and the back, just not where you would be walking. Kind of like that. Or we could have the benches... Maybe we could have the benches round about here. So it feels more like a park. Actually, let's try with the rotation on the benches. Let's do that. Let's try that. Still a little bit too close to the wall, I would say, on that particular one. Unless I just bring this all the way out. Or maybe have a gap here and a gap here. No. No, no gaps. And then maybe we extend this out by one. Move this over here a second. Let's extend that out by one again there. And then maybe we have the benches kind of like that. So they're sat around the edges of the tree. Or I should say on the four corners of the tree. But then the other part of me wants to put them like... I mean, I do like that, but then the other part of me wants to put them against the backs of the tree. Like this, I feel like that's more natural and what you would see. I might be wrong. Unless we just had like a... But then you're coming up the steps and you're like looking at someone looking back at you. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wonder if we do... I wonder if we do... something like that. But it still feels like it needs to be like that, you know? I still am feeling the pull of the rotation. But then that doesn't feel rotated enough. So it would end up having to be something along these lines. Which actually I think is nicer, personally. I do want to move that out of the way so I can just have that on grass inside of there rather than have it on mud. Although, are you going to be an issue? No, you can't really tell. Well, yeah, I think I'm going to be able to tell more on the inside than I am on the outside. Although having said that, I've just realized this is not even in line in any capacity. So I actually need to move all of this up by at least one. And then it still fits. So it looks like it was me that was in the wrong, which never happens, weirdly. It's really not something that it's not really something I experience. Of course, I'm lying. Let me just see what it looks like to actually have this work as an enclosed courtyard right now. I don't know if it's going to be too much. I suspect that it probably will be, especially because we put all of that work into doing the edges all nice, but let me just see. Let me place one there. Let me grab the small one. See where it needs to be. You want to be 2 in to do that. And then like that. And then it wants to be 2 in. So actually that's... Wait, I kind of like that. Don't you think that looks good? I think that kind of that's like really a finishing touch to that, I feel. The annoying thing is, it doesn't quite line up if I wanted to use the gate, but if I don't use the gate, it's okay. So like if I had the entrance just like that. Oh, wait, that does look good. I think that's maybe kind of what it was missing. Where the benches go now, I do not have a clue. Probably back where I initially didn't want them. But it does look good. Let's try that. I think if I can replicate this coming out of the back as well, I might be on to a winner. Do one there, and then let's do one like that. Move that plant, grab one of these, and then two of the lights. So no. I'm gonna have to go to Scrooge to grab a couple more of those, but that is fine. I like that central courtyard like that, though, I'll be honest. I think that looks kind of fun. Just so I can... Oh, I've got one left. Let me move that over here. It's the one from my mood board. There we go. Yeah, I do think that looks good. And then what I was thinking was maybe I could do... If I get rid of this, I know we worked on all that nice fancy path. Like, I might be able to fill those two gaps with tulips, which I think could be really cute. So if I just grab the straight version of that. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. It fits on the top, but not down here on the bottom. That's such a shame. That really is a shame. But it's okay. We don't let that knock us back. We just keep on keeping on. We just see what else we can come up with. Let's try maybe something like this. And I just like layering, just layer on layer of stuff. One here and then one here. And I think I've got a small one over on this side that I might be able to squeeze in on both sides, just like that. So even then, I think that still adds a bit of interest, looks good. So what I might do is actually just replicate that on the other side. 1 and 2, and I don't think I'm going to be able to fit the smallest one in. Oh, I am. Lucky me. So one there, and then the smallest one in that gap. Oh yeah, this is coming together. Now, because I put those down, I still don't think I'm going to be able to fit those tulips in. Oh, I am just, if I bring that path in by 1, like this, not change the castle skin. If I bring that path in, I mean, it does make it a slightly small path. However, I am able to fit a lovely row of tulips in its place, which, I don't know, I think it's worth it. Is it? Possibly. Maybe. Just kidding. Let's do that on that side too. Can I get that any I can't get that any closer. That's a shame. I thought that I had maybe one more space back there, but that's fine. Let's do that. Let's do that. Actually kind of like them in a weird way, coming just over the edge of the path like that. I was going to say, if I move them down, would I have space for another one? And the answer to that is a resounding no. You know what? I don't like that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I don't like it. Let me just move that over by 1. Like that, so it looks a bit more interesting. I don't think I can come down with that any further anyway. can't, so let me undo that remove all real quick. And I'm sure that there's going to be something else that I can fit in that gap. I don't know. What if we put a fence up first? Let me just see how this looked real quick. Let me delete that middle bit, and we can just come and join those together. Actually, it's going to have to be the triple one. So I'm going to put one here, and then I'm going to put one here. I'm just going to connect that. I'm going to connect that. And then I'm going to do that. Actually, that looks quite good. Adding those layers and those textures and all of those different things just ties it all together. So we're going to do exactly the same thing on this side. So I'm going to do one brick post there, one brick post there, one here, one here, and then we're going to join them up like that. Because if you take that one, then look, and you try and join it, it will drag that post. So that's why you have to add in the extra post to fill in the gap. So then you've got 3 evenly spaced ones, just like that. I'm going to try and do exactly the same thing on this side. So I think I can place 1 on the end. And then 2 in the center. Just like that. Connect those ones up. And then do the middle bit. Okay, yeah, that's fun. I like that. And then let's do the same thing over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I was about to say, I felt like that was off. It was. I placed that one in the wrong place. So let me get rid of those 2. Let's make sure that that is where it should be. Aha. That's the culprit. There we go. The hedge was too far down, so now I can place 1 there, 1 here, and then we can do connections, and then get that middle one in. Perfect. I love it. Oh, it looks so good. It literally looks so good. Let me see. Could we still place a bench in the corners? No, it's a little bit tight, isn't it? Yeah, I don't like that. Imagine you'd be touching knees with the person there. I rebuke that. What I would like is maybe the recyclers, the green recyclers. I know that these are not very London, but I think that they work for adding a sense of realism. I'm just going to put 1 in each corner. Actually, we need lights. Now, I wanted to use these kind of like gothic lights because these felt quite London to me. Although I did also place down some of these ones. And these are a bit better because they have such a tiny footprint. So I think I'm going to go with these ones. And I think that they should probably take up the corner like that. So I'm going to move those up by 2 so I can fit these in. And then the same thing here, down by 2. And down by 2. There we go. Vamos, they look very good. I think we should probably look at maybe making sure that the path lines up to the ticket booth, something I completely forgot about, and then walking underneath there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see, and that's it. That's what I was going to see. I wanted to see where it was that kind of like came out towards the ticket booth. So let's do that. I'm going to do the same on the other side. So it's not that one. It was this one. And then this one. And then we just added a little bit of flourish onto that section. And then from there, we're going to come all the way across, all the way back. Actually, I'm just going to go all the way to there. And I'm just going to fill in what is that gappy bit, like that. And then bring that underneath there. Bring that underneath there. Because this is going to be diagonal, so you have to remember that it will change slightly when we change it to diagonal. Or we delete it. I mean, that's always an option too. But I do think that we need some extra floor like that. Maybe we even get rid of that one. Let me see how that looks. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I like that. So, if I bring this all the way across, you know what? I'm just going to actually just go like this to make sure that I've filled in underneath the building satisfactorily. Is that a word? Satisfactorily? That's definitely not a word. To a satisfactory standard. And then what I'll do is I will go in. You see like this bit out here? That's where I need to start taking away. So I can take away those ones, come across, delete that, come across, delete that. There's still a little piece of tile underneath that train, which is a bit of a pain actually. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. How did I leave some? All right. There. But I don't think it goes to the edge, so I can delete that row. And it just stays like that. And then I can delete the row that's kind of going under the window. And that's about where it lines up, I believe. It might be like one tile off on that. I bring that across by one. Bring that across by one, and bring that across by one. Now I'm aligned. Take that corner off like that, but we are going to have an extra one coming across there. So that corner can come back. And that looks about right. Let me embellish this bit. We're just going to add in some bits for the corners. And I think that looks good. Let me see. Yeah, perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Has the nice brick floor underneath as we approach the shop, which is just what I wanted on both sides. Exactly what I was going for. The only thing I'm thinking is maybe... could I get this a little bit closer to there so it kind of... Wait, I think we should do... No, not that. I always remove all. Let's do another one of these to here. Okay. I was looking at how I can fit this into the path that we've got going on. Or maybe we do something like that. There we go. And that fits like right in it. Although I think that actually looks a little bit less interesting than that. So actually take all of that back. I take all of that back. I actually like that it has a slightly different shape because it was looking a bit like a duplicate of this bit up here. And I felt like there was too much path. Yeah, this looks cool. This looks cool. This is definitely like the elegant city train-esque vibe that I was going for. Definitely could do with a little bit more train track going on, but it is what it is. I fit it where I could fit it. I mean, let's see if we can get a couple of other things in place. Maybe just something snuck behind that. Maybe it's not the planter one, but maybe it's this plus a single one just to hide the gap. Yeah, kind of like that. Let's try putting that there and that there. I'm going to do the same thing over here. And actually, I love the corner piece because it's just got that gorgeous rounding to it. So I wonder if... Ah, that's a shame. I thought I might be able to fit something in there. But maybe it's the case that I get rid of that one, bring this down here, and I have that. Ah, yeah, that's it. Get rid of that one, bring this down here, and then we have the corner piece rounding that edge off. Oh, yes, 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 yes. So good. So good. Before I get too much more of the foliage in and kind of start enclosing the spaces, I just want to make sure I'm good with small little embellishments. So I'm talking about things like these grates. So these are like steam grates, which I think are really cool. So we can maybe place one of those like in the middle of each of those, or just dotted around in different places. Maybe we have one like on the approach to the train station, or I don't know whether to bring in the other grate for the train station. I don't know if that feels a little bit too industrial. But I really love that these ones actually have the steam coming out of them. So I think I'm going to go with these. And maybe just place them, I don't know, kind of like that. And then maybe like that. I think it's these little touches that really bring a build to life in the end. We could have something like that and that. A couple of those. And I know that we do not have fire hydrants in the UK. But I did place one of those down. And again, I just think it adds a little bit of town or city vibes to this. I don't know. I feel like one of these on the corners or something could be quite cool. Who knows why this is not aligned to its grid? Look at this. Why are you not in the center of your grid? It's so fascinating to me. But it's just little things like that that I think add a bit of fun or a bit of whimsy to a build. I don't actually know whether to have it like against the building or not. What would be nice is to try and fit in... I would still really like to try and fit this Headless Horseman statue in, and I know that it seems a little bit strange, but we do, without it being headless, we do have a lot of statues like this in the UK. So I didn't know whether to place that like coming off the edge of those topiaries. Maybe something like that. Actually, that's quite fun. It fills in a gap as well. Is that just about right? Do you line up? Where do you sit? You are probably a full tile in front of that corner. Let me check where you are. Well, that's not a full tile, is it? You're lined up with the corner. And you're lined up with the corner. Okay. Looks like I was right. Something like that. Definitely fits the vibe. The carriage, not so sure what's going on with the carriage. I'm going to work that out in a moment. It could be that I feel like we have to add in a telephone box. Like, I feel like that just needs to be included, even though they changed it and they got rid of the actual old British telephone boxes. There was an original design when Wish Blossom Ranch came out that had a real telephone box, not this Doctor Who looking type one. I don't know why they got rid of it in the end, but unfortunately they did. But maybe we have a telephone box. Maybe we have a telephone box kind of down here. And the carriage is just parked. Maybe something like that. And then if I change this back briefly to all of these, we could have a path coming off down here to said telephone box. Kind of like that. And then maybe we do 1, 2, 1 across, 1, 2, 1 across. Let me change that. And that just came up and off there, right? Like that. And then I think we had one more. No, it was the other way. My apologies. That was correct. And then it went out this way instead. So like that. And then I will delete the back row, and then we'll bring that telephone box back over. And I'll just make sure it's sat on the very edge. Oh, actually, it seems as though I did have it coming all the way back. No, I mustn't have. My eyes are playing tricks on me. There we go. We can do that with a nice telephone box kind of in that area too. And that feels a little bit more complete now. So if I change that to diagonals, it all looks good. I'm going to bring that forward one more. I'm going to change that. Yeah, that's fun. I'm going to rotate that once. I'm gonna move that across. There we go. Let me just check. I know that we did have, they've moved some of the other paths. I can't remember where they've placed them. I know that they said that it was putting them in the correct categories, but there used to be individual paths in here. We've still got like the rocky terrain now, which is kind of like a rock rug essentially, but all of the other things that we got seem to have moved, but there's not a specific path section. Things like the garden stone paths, I know the color doesn't match, but there is another one, but I can't remember what it is, which is a shame, but never mind. I was thinking maybe we use a plaza cluster, if there's a cluster for the plaza somewhere. I just kind of wanted it to look like stepping stones, but that definitely does not look like stepping stones. You wouldn't really want to step out on top of that, would you? But that's okay. The Victorians kind of went through it, which is the era that's really in my head for this. Let's just do that. I don't know. That's such a small detail that I don't really need to be doing it at this present moment. Let me change the look on that side. And I think that we might be ready to start on the foliage. So let's take a look at what we've actually got. Well, I say that. Maybe I should... No, we're not quite done. I need to... We're actually definitely not done. I need to add some more lights into the left and the right sections. Because obviously I've got the 4 in the middle. But then I also need to think about what I want to do around the base of Big Ben. Do I want a fence? Do I want the small little fence? Do we want something elegant? Although that, I think, blocks off the bottom, which I don't love. What I do like about the wrought iron one is that you can see through it. That's not the wrought iron one. That was the black metal barrier. But actually, I think that might be able to work too. I don't know. I feel like that black metal one does kind of work as well. But then on the flip side, I think the wrought iron one does. So I tell you what, I'll do one of each on each side. So let me do the wrought iron over here. So I'm going to do that. We'll do the same down here like this. And then we'll do a little one by there. I'm not going to go the whole way and do the diagonals just because I think it's going to take up too much space, but I do think that that works. I don't know. Let me see. Diagonal? Yeah, because you can only have the single post at that point. I mean, I do have some single posts up here, which I guess could kind of work, although I've run out of them apparently. If I were to take this one. So, I mean, you could do something like that by there, but let me see what this looks like over here with the kind of chain link fence. Well, it's not chain link, it's the metal barrier one. If I do 3 across there. I could do... See, I can't even do 2, which is annoying because it automatically converts to a 3. I actually think that this gives a bit of a different style or a different texture to what we've been doing, so... I think when I look at it like this, I think it has to be the wrought iron. I think it has to be the wrought iron. So let me go ahead and swap these out. I just don't know if it needs the pillar or the post that we've been using as well. Because it might also be the case that we get rid of these, like this, and we use some shrubs. So actually the wrought iron's only on 2 sides. I think that's the best. So let's get rid of those. Let's get rid of this. And then what I'm thinking is, well, I could even use like a topiary, but that's a little bit too tall maybe. I feel like I'm blocking the base of the clock if I do that. I mean, I don't hate that either, to be fair. I don't hate that, but I was thinking something smaller, like one of these. They don't have the smallest footprints in the world, but you know, just something like that. I kind of like. You know, I think that works too. Or it could be a flower bush. I think that's the same amount. Or the same footprint. So we could have the flower bushes. But I feel like the flower bushes are a little bit too much. Just a little bit too big for that space. I will use them elsewhere. Actually, I kind of like the single small shrubs for this. Yeah, kind of like that. Grabbing this park clock, I did want this in as well. I've just realized I completely forgot about this. I would love, I mean, okay. I've just put this here and I've realized that I've got an absolutely gigantic clock next to this, but don't you think these little park clocks are so cute? I would really love one of these in, but I just don't think that I can find a place for it unless I did something like that. Because then there's a lot of clock going on, you know? There's a lot of clock going on in this build. We've got a clock up here. We've got a clock here. We've got a clock here. But I just think that they are adorable and I want to use them. So I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to put them in just like that next to the ticket booth. I do love these lights as well. Like, I feel like these lights are like super regal. So actually, I'm wondering if I move those ones out of this center section and I put these lovely ones in instead, because the gold kind of matches the gold from the walkway, and that middle bit can feel a little bit more rich. And then we could possibly put a couple of these lights just out and about, kind of like in this, you know, in this back area, something like that. Let's do that again. So we've got one here, I think we've got one here, and then we've got one here, and then maybe we could have these right next to, oh yes, right next to this, kind of like that. But actually, let's line them up with the posts instead. Oh, I like that. Yep. Don't think I need one on that side, but I am going to do them there and there. Looks like I'm forgetting a gate over here. Oh, I think this is very much coming together. I think we are honestly on the home stretch as of right now. Let's do one there and one there as well with those. Actually, no. I'm going to leave those ones out. Just having a look at what else I've got placed. I forgot about these. I did. These kind of add a sense of luxury as well. Let me take a look. Something like that, maybe in these areas. Actually, that's a bit too close to the wall. If I move that across, I just want this middle section to feel nice. That's all. I just want it to feel nice. I wonder if we can pull these down into this gap. Maybe, is that in the same place? I think that's in the same place on both sides. So let's do that there and that there. And then let's grab this one. And then let's also grab this one. Just like that. Yes, yes, yes. I think that looks great. Okay. I think. Could we use this horse anywhere? Is this too much? Are we going too far on the horses? I mean, it doesn't look bad next to the telephone box. Does it make sense? Not necessarily. Does it have to make sense? Also not necessarily. Hey, that looks quite good, actually. Yeah. Let's just leave those, because why not? And then we can start bringing in, finally. I know I've not used any of this. I did place it down just for inspiration. I mean, like, I think the gold dog statues could be interesting somewhere as well. Every time I say I'm going to do something else, I start doing something else. I don't know. Like, they could be quite cool. Wait, they do look quite cool. Let me use those too. Let me use those as well. One there and one there. And then I wonder if I just get rid of that bit. Yes, actually. Wait, I like that. Because the dogs add a bit of regal sense as well. Alright, well, what else have I got lurking up here in that case? Poor Bambi, looking absolutely terrified. Thumper just happy to be there. Don't think I'm going to use those. No, I think that's it. I think that's it in terms of furniture. So let's try starting to work in some of these trees. I was thinking maybe I could have these like run down the side of this. Let me move this out of the way. Actually, let's jump out, save it so I can pick up any flowers that are dropped right now, because as soon as we start bringing trees in, we're going to start dropping sticks too. So it's good to clear that up. And let's just see. That's the middle. So possibly there and there. Can't do that one though. What if we did... something like that? Maybe. Just with the formal trees? I'm gonna do... Where are you aligned? You are nowhere helpful. You're in between those two water tiles by the look of it. So maybe here. Which means that one's probably in line. No, that one is just one off the second to last one. And then the other one's just centered. See how adding trees immediately just breaks it up and starts to make it look different? Let's do that there. Let me grab these flower beds. I actually think that they would be quite nice in front of the train station windows like that. Just to add a bit of visual interest over there too. Something like that, maybe. Well, one seems super close where the other does not, but that's what it's going to have to be. I think it might be the same on this side. Oh, actually, no, they line up quite nice on the other side. Seems as though it's just maybe that one. We'll just move that one there. That's cool. It's just nice to have some flowers underneath the train station entrance. Okay. I think we can probably bring down some of the natural green trees. Now I've got a really big one here that might be able to live. Maybe it can live in the corner like that. Actually, I kind of like that. So if I come away from the side and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's do 6. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It kind of sits in the back and frames that nicely. I've just realized we don't have any train track down at all, so let me just see what I can get into this space real quick. Let me do... I don't know, let me do... That's not going to work, it just goes into the tree. Maybe if I grab the straight piece, just have that go as far as I can get it. That seems dumb. Unless I bring the tree across. Okay, I need to dig that up, obviously, to be able to put the tree down there, but off the back of that, let's see, it's just off that. We've got a rotation on it. And then if I move that, that could maybe go in the middle of the track. I just feel like I had to have some sort of train track somewhere. Just a little bit. Even if it's only that. Just a little bit somewhere. For now, I can at least fit this in just about. But yeah, it does go in the middle of that. So that's cool. I think that looks good. I realize I never used this wrought iron, which is a shame, but I don't think I need it unless I place it right at the entrance like that. Wait, I do kind of like that. Or if I place it right here, I do kind of like that too. I think I prefer it at the back, so I'm going to leave it just at the back. And then in terms of other trees, I've got a couple of different size ones. So I'm just going to grab some of these and place them down. I'm going to place this one in line with that. Do the same over there, just like that. So it starts to add a little bit more verticality and a little bit more foliage and canopy to the space. I'm going to bring this one. Actually, let me bring in one of the silver birches. These have a gigantic footprint, absolutely enormous. But I'm going to place that not there, apparently, because of the horse. But I think I can fit it down the back. So let's do one here and here. Like that. And then we can bring in these smaller ones again on the other side, I think. I'll do that round about there. There we go. I like that. That looks nice. And I wasn't sure whether to bring in like the biggest one again. But it may be that that is just a little bit too big for these other inner areas. And I think that that is the case. So I think I might just leave that be the tree selection in terms of like tall trees. I do have some smaller trees like these green ones that we might be able to use, like, I don't know, in areas like that. I don't want to clip into the statue too much. And actually, I think that that's... I don't know. I do like this tree, but it does have such a strange footprint to it. But actually, it is a little bit interesting at least. So let's see. Could do something along those lines, maybe by there. And then if I make sure that lines up, it was like that. Yeah, that gives just a little bit of something else as well, I guess. I could grab maybe... This is the smallest version of that tree as well. So I didn't know whether to place that kind of like just in front of this topiary. Like that. So I could do maybe... something along those lines. I love making things symmetrical, just in case you didn't know. If you didn't, now you do. I haven't placed this railroad sign down yet, which I've just realized, but maybe I place it just about here. Yeah, let's do it here. So I'm going to do it right on the corner of this. And I'm going to do just one. I've just realized that it's one-sided, which is a pain, but that's okay. So let's do it right on the corner of this. Did I bring that across one? I did. Just like that. On the edges. I think that we could maybe make a quasi path with the stones from out the back. So we could maybe have these little stones just kind of make their way over to the plaza entrance. In some capacity, I don't know. Something like this. Yeah, just something like that, just so it's got the suggestion of a path. And we've got like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that lines up to here, just about. Just going to move those over by 1. And then I think we've got another one just directly like below that. There we go. They kind of look similar, which is what I was after. And then let's take a look. I know what I am missing. this little section. I didn't know what to put in here. Yeah, I wasn't sure. Maybe it's shrubs instead of the flower bush. Don't think the tulips are going to fit in there, which is fine. We do have these pastel ones, of course, which I tend to use in every build. Let me bring the flower shrubs over and see where I can fit those. Because it may be that I just put the flower shrubs in like that. And then I wonder if I could fit... Yeah, I can fit one of the regular shrubs in after that. So that looks good. Off the back of that, I do think that we need some flower shrubs just around in general. So I'm just going to start to fit these in. That's there, and then that is there, just like that. Shrub maybe just in front. Shrub just in front. Actually, I don't even think it needs the shrub in front. Let me continue on with my power bush. Not my power bush, my flower bush crusade. I'm gonna pop one in the corner just there, like that. My power bush, Jesus. And then let's grab one of these shrubs and let's just pop that in there. Let's pop that in right there. Like that, just to add a bit of nature, a bit of natural stuff going on. Let's grab... I don't think I'm going to have one over there, actually, because I think I might use some grass, possibly. Let me just grab another flower bush, though, and maybe we can squeeze one in just on this side. Like that. And then I've just realized I've forgotten to path this side. So I'm just going to grab my brick road. Just going to make sure that starts about the same place. It does. Bring that all the way down. All the way across. And I'm just going to fill this in as best as I can. Like that. Another one up there. Down, and then I think it's probably 2 more columns. Just like that. And then I think we had it going in on the other side. I'll just change all that to diagonal. So that all matches nicely. I'm going to keep those corridors, which is what I call them, free. And then I think I'm going to bring in a little bit of beach grass. I don't think I want... I don't know. I do kind of like the ferns. So maybe there's a spot or two that I can find for a fern in the plaza that doesn't feel too intrusive. Let me place one at least on that side of the tree. One at least on that side of the tree, and then let me just see if there's anywhere else. Or maybe that's what goes in front of... Yeah, let's do that. That's what can go in front of the statue. This is the first time I'm being quite restrained with foliage. I'm usually all in on foliage, but today I'm taking it easy. I think we're good for lighting. And I think we're good for nearly everything else. So I'm just going to try and find that beach grass real quick. I know it's down here. I believe that there's a couple of variations of it. Some of it can clip, some of it can't. This is the one that can clip. So I'm not going to do too much with that either. I'm just going to play. I don't want it to look unkempt. So I'm just going to place a small handful of these grasses dotted around, kind of like this. Maybe we do one over here on each side. Yeah, I like that actually. It just gives a little bit more of a natural element. I know that these parks and things are usually like super manicured, but I think it's always nice to have a little bit of wild texture as well. And let's see, can we do one more? Should we do one more? Maybe underneath the train on this side and this side. Kind of like that. And I think that's it. I'm trying, friends. I'm trying to be restrained this time. So I think that that looks good. The only other thing that I think I might add is I bought this star in the premium shop, this shooting star, the last week or a couple of weeks ago. And I didn't know whether to have it going around Big Ben or whether to have it going around the tree in the middle. I don't know. Part of me wants it, but then it feels like it's not quite centered, which will bug me. And it looks as though I have to get rid of some of the foliage to add it in. But I do think it looks the part. So I don't know whether to... I wish that I could fit it in here, but I don't think that I can. So I might actually leave it instead. Yeah, I don't think it needs it. I think I was just trying to add that for the sake of it, but look at that. We've got a beautiful build. So let me give you a tour. We make our way up from the peaceful meadow. You'll see that there is this center courtyard section, which we worked on. Oswald enjoying the benches that I agonized over placing down, but we've got this nice little area filled with some plants as well in the planters now. Of course, we've got the tree right in the middle, just adding a bit of shade to this courtyard. We can come around here, around the back and see what that looks like, just with this little entrance to the main plaza area, which is very busy today. But if we come back down through this section, we can go over to the right-hand side. We can see the water where this quasi bridge goes over the top of this lovely section of motion, especially with the water fountains going off as well in a nice uniform pattern. We've also got some steam coming up from the grate. I just think it adds a nice bit of realism to the build. Coming over to the left, we have this lovely carriage, which I just think is super, super elegant, fits the build really nicely. As long as those statues are in the background as well, I think it all ties together. We then have the telephone box and the horse topiary just working together as well to make this all feel cohesive. Of course, we've got the London Clock Tower, Big Ben, doing its job there. You can't see the clock when we're up super close to it, but if we come through this gazebo out to the other side, we've got all this planting going on down here as well with the same lovely yellow flowers. Taking a look up, you can actually see the clock tower there, which is fantastic. I love how this has already turned out. Coming back into the main section as we walk around the back side of the clock, which is sparkling, we've got the statue of the Headless Horseman, which is one of my favorite statues. I think this looks so cool in the game. We've got these beautiful cypress trees, and we've got a ticket booth to go and get a train. Coming underneath here, underneath this actual structure, which we would be going typically into a train station, but we've got the grate again, but instead it goes into Scrooge's store. So it acts as a nice facade, which I still think is pretty cool. We've got these little stepping stones past the clock, out the back, in which we've got the actual train sitting there. Maybe it's been left behind because it's starting to overgrow a little bit. We do have a bit of a train track just to reinforce the theme, and then we've got that crossroad as well. And then coming over, we have exactly the same on the other side. Switching into nighttime modes, we can just see it all lit up. You can see all of those lights working together. I actually think the facade looks really cool. You wouldn't really tell that they were separate buildings. So that is the Grand Exhibition, of course, sat just behind the other train station, which I love. I have got a little ancient vacuum just so I can tidy up this space. I've hidden it slightly around there, but maybe I could probably hide it slightly behind the building instead. The ticket booth is super bright at night. It's got a lot of light to it, which I really like. The Headless Horseman statue looks pretty cool. The sparkles from the London Clock Tower look great. The carriage itself lights up with some blue lights. All in all, I just think it came together wonderfully. I'm super, super proud of this build. I was very restrained with all of my foliage this time around, and I think that we did a great job. So pats on the back to us. All right, my friends, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I do hope that you enjoyed this build. I hope that you found it helpful, maybe relaxing, maybe both. That would be a bonus. If you did, please do feel free to consider giving this video a like, or maybe even subscribing to the channel for more Disney Dreamlight Valley content. This was a super long video today, so I'm not going to keep you any longer. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I will catch you in the next one, and I will, of course, see you in the valley.